Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Musings. This is our second take. Nerida Bint. Okay, I just said there's like one name almost. But it's a great name. I actually really like it. Like,
thank you.
All off the tongue. So I have a delightful guest with me today. Unfortunately, we couldn't have coffee in person as of yet, but I've got some kombucha now. I don't have.
I'm glad. Well done.
To be sponsored by these guys because I do. Thank you very much for joining me on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Now, if you could please do the honors of introducing yourself and give us a background of, who you are now, but what you do and how you came to do what you do, and we'll get stuck into the why a bit later on.
Yeah, my name's Nerida Bint. I'm 35 years old and I live in Newcastle, New South Wales. I own and operate a women's-only gym based in Carrington, which is 5 minutes from the city. It's called Musings. Yeah, I absolutely love what I do. I employ 8 coaches and we all work together to create this, I think, wonderful culture and community. And we're just over 4 years old now and things are going well. And yeah, I love what I do and I'm so excited to be here today to share our story with you.
Cool. Great. Fantastic. So you said that you've been operating for 4 years. So what were you doing prior to working with Musings?
I was working for a waste.
Really?
Yeah. So my entry into the fitness industry is very different to most. I was actually working for a waste management company for years and really, really liked the company, the organization. I love the people I work for, but I really did not enjoy the work that I was doing. And weirdly, so my story kind of, the way that it came to me leaving, just, randomly calling my boss one day and quitting my job on the spot. I actually, 7 years ago, with my ex-partner at the time, bought a house across the road from a CrossFit gym. And back then, no one really knew what CrossFit was all about. And I was 22 kilos overweight back then. I was, really unhappy, really depressed, and I was really lost, to be honest. I was in a relationship I was unhappy with. I was not a confident person. I was miserable. And I would see these guys training and exercising, working out, and I became fascinated with it. So I decided to get up the courage one day and go across and ask about joining up and how I could go about, becoming a part of the gym. And I remember walking into the gym and thinking it was something like I'd never seen before. It was a scene out of a Rocky film. There was people pushing sleds or people doing pull-ups on the rig. There were people lifting barbells. Like, it was amazing. I was in awe. I finally got to meet the owner and started chatting to him, and I was really, really excited, really enthusiastic. And, at the time I knew I was really overweight, but I also knew I came from a sporting background, so I knew that I was capable of, getting back to that point. So I wasn't really like most people where they wouldn't even step into a gym like that. They're too nervous or too scared about judgment. I didn't have any of that. I was very naive, which is funny thinking about it now. But I remember meeting the owner, talking to him and asking how I would go about, becoming a part of this gym. And I remember very clearly him looking me up and down. I remember this really sense of dissatisfaction and him not really meeting my same energy. And I'll never forget the words that he said to me, but he looked me up and down and he said, "Darling, this is not for you." And so I was mortified, obviously. I could feel the tears stinging behind my eyes, and I left that day, and I wish I could say I went and signed up to the next CrossFit gym I could find, but I didn't. I was really sad to think that this kind of training was only for people that were really elite, really fit. And I would watch them train every morning. I'd wake up and watch them out of my bedroom window and really just wish that I could be a part of it. And it wasn't until 6 months later, I was at a barbecue and I bumped into a friend of mine and he'd lost about 15 kilos. And I said to him, "What have you been doing? You look amazing. You look happy, healthy. What is it?" And, I just wanted to know what he was doing. And he said, I've been doing CrossFit. And I was disappointed because I thought, that's only for fit people. I can't do that. And he said, "No, it's not. Come to my gym." It was around the corner. It was a 5-minute drive away. There were only 2 gyms in Newcastle at the time. And I remember making a plan with him to go the following Thursday. And I remember all week thinking to myself, it's okay. I'll just find a way to get out of it. I'll tell him I'm working. I'll pull the pin. I will not be going to that gym. And that morning he sent me a message saying, "Don't even think about cancelling on me. I'll see you at 5 p.m. And I remember all day feeling sick. I was so nervous and I just felt terrified at the thought of going, and I honestly believed I would be treated the same way and had that same judgment.
Mm-hmm.
But I drove along anyway, and I could see the people in the 4 o'clock session running laps around the oval and training and working out. And I was thinking, I do not belong here. Like, this is not where I'm meant to be. And 5 to 5, I was sitting in my car, like literally shaking. But something inside of me just made me get out of that car, and I walked in, and I was terrified. And I had the complete opposite experience. The owner came straight over to me, shook my hand, introduced himself to me. He introduced me to about 5 or 6 other members. He was so lovely, explained how the scaling options would work, talked me through the first workout, which was something ridiculous, like 5 rounds of 400-meter run, 20 box jumps, 20 burpees, 20 pull-ups. It was crazy. And, you know, we went through that workout, and it was an amazing experience. People were finished the 400-meter run, and I was still halfway around the oval. I was so far behind, but I didn't care. Like, I knew I had to start somewhere, and I knew given a couple months I would improve. Like, I had that kind of sporting, you know, mentality where I just knew I had to grind. But I do remember that very last set of burpees. Everyone had been finished for minutes, and I remember everyone getting down on the floor doing their last set of burpees with me. Everyone did an extra 20 burpees. And I remember at the end of it, people were high-fiving me. People were, like, patting me on the back. One lady hugged me. And I just had this experience. I felt like I was a celebrity. Everyone was so pumped. And I became addicted. I became hooked. And so the owner spoke to me, and he said, "What are your goals?" And I said, "I really want to lose 20 kilos. And I was crying as I said that. It was the first time I really said it out loud. And he said, "Okay, well, come and train here 5 days a week. And I want you to sign up to like a nutrition program and start looking at nutrition." So I Googled the first thing I could find about nutrition, and Michelle Bridges popped up. And as luck would have it, back then she only ran her 12-week body transformation 2 or 3 times a year. Mm-hmm. And one of them was starting the following week. So I signed up to that, and literally 12 weeks to the day, I lost 21 kilos. And I was a different person, and I have been ever since. And it was that first thing of just getting my health and fitness on track that then, you know, like had that flow-on effect at work. You know, I started enjoying my work more, and I was a better person at work, but also at the same time I knew I wanted more. And so the way that came about was I was driving to work one day, and I pulled over the side of the road, and I called my boss, and I just said, "I'm done." I just was not happy. And he had seen me go through this whole process. This was probably 12 months after I'd lost all the weight. And he tried what he could do to keep me. He said, "What can we do? Can we put you into another, you know, division? Like, let's have a chat." And I remember having all this anxiety that he was going to try and keep me, and that I was going to want to stay because I was used to the salary. I was comfortable. I had my car, I had my home, all that sort of stuff. And I knew I didn't want that. I knew I needed to do something drastic to find something else. And we went for lunch, and he asked me, he thought I was going to a competitor. And I said, "No, I really don't know what I'm going to do. I have no idea." And he said, "You know what you need to do? You need to become a PT." And I laughed at him, and I thought to myself, no one will employ me to be a PT. Like, that's not me. And weirdly, that ended up what happening. Like, I didn't work for a couple of months, and then I just kind of, you know, bummed around. It was summer. And then one day I thought to myself, I really do need to find some work, even if it's just casual work. I'll go down to the local cafe and just find some waitressing jobs. And I was driving down, and I'd driven down this road thousands of times, but it was like the first time I've really seen it. There was a women's only supplement store that I'd never walked into before. Mm-hmm. So I thought, I'll go in there and I'll see if I can sell supplements. Like, I don't know anything about them, but I'll give it a go. Sure. And I got talking to the owner, and she was the one that suggested she didn't have any work, but she said, "Why don't you start a boot camp?" Like, she knew I was just obviously just barking health and fitness and all that.
Enthusiastic, yeah.
Yeah, she could pick up on all that.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how.
Yeah. I was raving about CrossFit to her, and she said, "Well, why don't you start a boot camp?" And yeah, she gave me a list of 10 names. I had no gear, no contacts, no money. She said, "I've got a couple of slam balls. I've got some skipping ropes. Let's just contact these people," and go up to the local park next Monday, 6 a.m. And literally that's how it started. It was eight people turned up on that first day. And it grew from that to being a gym. It was people asking me for more and more training, more and more boot camps. It was people, saying they wanted to train my program but in a gym. But I would ask them to come to my CrossFit gym, and they were terrified. They were like, "No way. A, CrossFit's intimidating, and B, there are guys there." And that's when I started thinking, well, what would it be like if there was a CrossFit-style gym that was for women, that wasn't called CrossFit but kind of was CrossFit? Mm-hmm. And in August 2014, that's when we opened. And it's been booming ever since. It's been great.
Yep, fantastic. And you said you're 5 minutes out of the city.
5 minutes out of the city, yeah, really, really close to the city centre.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. It's interesting, like, I mean, looking into the CrossFit thing, and also I want to sort of expand a bit more on your first session and the experience with it as well. And, I mean, my facility, functional fitness, is effectively its name. It's like owning a grocery store called the grocery store.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because from the outside perspective, it's just, I put up a post just the other day about calling it just another warehouse gym, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, of course. Just if you drive past, it's just another warehouse gym, or, you know, maybe it's, you know, people say, I don't want to pay the CrossFit affiliate fees. Like, well, I don't want to pay the CrossFit affiliate fees because I'm not a CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
In the same way I don't want to pay netball fucking admin or membership fees when I don't play netball. It's like,
yeah,
it's understanding that I use certain qualities of CrossFit, but it wasn't my actual original influence into functional training. It came a couple of years later, and there's things that I'm like, people don't need to snatch a barbell to be a good human being. I don't think that's the case. And I think there's, 43-year-old Anne that wants to be able to play with her children and hike on holidays. I'm like, she's in there 3 times a week. I don't see the point for us. I don't see the point in wasting her time trying to snatch a barbell. Like risk versus reward, the reward isn't greater than the risk or the waste of time doing so. And
yeah,
I don't think everyone has to be by those rules at all, but it's interesting sort of having you mentioned a CrossFit gym that's not CrossFit. So, well, CrossFit's similar, so to speak, as well, which I'm sure that gives you a lot of flexibility. But what was the main reasons why you then would identify as somewhat of a similar to a CrossFit gym, but not go with the CrossFit name?
Well, like, number one, for me, when I hear the word CrossFit, and please don't get me wrong, like that story, I don't tell that to discredit CrossFit, because that actually, was the beginning of my 7-year love for CrossFit. And I'm still so involved in the CrossFit community here. But for me, I don't think of CrossFit as just those exercises, like, and just the type of training program. For me, it's so much more than that. It's the culture. And of course I didn't experience it one gym, but I experienced it the next one, and I'm so thankful that I did. And I had
still experienced the culture at the other gym, right? Like, it wasn't you experienced the culture that you related to and that was accepting. That's still a culture.
Yeah, true, exactly. And that kind of inclusive culture is what I've then experienced everywhere I've gone, and that's what and I look at that and I really identify with that, and for that reason, for that coming into contact with that one gym that made me feel like I was included and made me feel a part of it, and the effect it's had on the rest of my life. I'll always be super passionate about that and protecting that and making, trying to promote that. So, so for me, I suppose when you look at any type of gym, say for instance, like a Globo gym, like they typically don't have that kind of community. And that culture, because no one knows each other. They turn up, they train at different times. They don't train together. I look at it more as the community. And that's why I think we do have elements of that CrossFit gym, and we do a lot of the movements. We do a lot of that functional fitness. We do snatch, we do all that sort of rig stuff. But at the same time, I think it's that community that makes us, so similar to a CrossFit gym. But I've found that by keeping that name in by saying that we're a CrossFit gym, it's the one thing that will stop women from coming. They don't want to do CrossFit because they have this idea of what it is, and also that it makes you big and bulky. But whereas you take that away, they come along, they try it out, they realize that they love it, and therefore they step into it. And I think that's better. Like, it's not creating that barrier. Like, there are enough barriers for women coming into fitness already. You add that element to it, the CrossFit name, the guys, the intimidation, you're losing so many people. Like, you know what I mean? There are so many women out there that just will not even step foot into a gym. So I'm all about trying to impact as many people as I possibly can on this planet, trying to get as many women fit and healthy, but also understand that they should love their bodies for what they can do, not so much what they look like. And that's the one thing I love about LaSalle. Like, we always ask our members when they first sign up, what are your goals? And they're always, to lose 5 kilos, to fit into this size dress, to weigh this much. 6 months in, we ask them what their goals are. And they're like, I want to be able to run a K in under 5 minutes. I want to be able to deadlift my body weight. I want to be able to do a pull-up. And all of a sudden, they've lost that weight. That's happened as a byproduct. But their goals have completely shifted, and they come to the gym because they want to be better. They don't want to just, look a certain way. But that happens naturally anyway.
Well, it'll be a byproduct of it. But it also comes under conditional goals or conditional esteem, conditional happiness. And one of the biggest things I think I've learned through the process of all of that, like that side of the conversation is going, people don't want to lose. I mean, I say this quite freely. I'm like, people don't want to lose weight. And I maybe I say it a little bit for reaction, because people will be like, well, you don't clearly understand. I'm like, no one wants to lose. Like, no one wants to actually lose. Like,
they want to gain. They want to feel, yeah.
Well, we want to gain, sure, but it's also like I want to look at the word lose in itself, and it's the same as having cheat meals in a diet. It's like people, we've got to look at how we have relationships with these words, and how we actually use them. And so a lot of the time, if I'm cheating, which inherently we know is a bad thing, on something that I already have an emotional, issue with the word diet, so to speak. So what's the meaning that I associate with diet on an emotional level? And then I'm cheating on that. It's like, how is this going to yield any long-term health? Yeah.
The initial relationship is not a positive one, therefore. Yeah, I agree. Well, and so we talk about...
Hold on. 2 seconds. It's not a positive one, but it doesn't necessarily have to be positive or negative.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be polarizing like that either. So I think it's a matter of going, it really is just stepping back and being able to look at it and go, hang on, what is the meaning that we're associating with all these terms? Because there's for that reason, it's like, my train of thought with that was going sort of like, the cheat meal, and diet. I was going with something else with that. I can't remember. Anyway, but my point there being is that we have to look further than what we're actually just having these. That's what I was saying, that people don't want to lose weight. That's right. So the whole idea of loss is like, we know that if we play a sport, we don't want to lose, and we definitely won't lose a lesson, that's for sure. But in the circumstances that people already have this sort of emotional connection or disconnection, so to speak, with the term weight, they already think there's an issue there. And that's what you're saying, referring to these body weight goals or something like that, or these dress goals. And then we're trying to lose that. And so on top of this industry there's people making a mozza of money based off people's insecurities, and it's sort of like, we do have to be very mindful of going, hang on a sec, what do you think that weight loss will give you? Because that's the goal.
Exactly. Why? What do you think? 100%. And we see all sorts of, and often we ask them why, but you obviously get a very surface level answer to begin with. When you start to dig deeper, you'll find out, well, Anne, who's just joined up, who's 55, wants to run around after her kids and wants to actually be able to get on the ground and play, toy trains with her little grandson. And she can't do that right now because her mobility's so poor.
Yeah.
The 21-year-old girl that's, just joined up, has no friends and thinks that if she loses weight, she'll be more socially acceptable and she'll be more attractive to guys, or, you know what I mean? There's always a deep hidden meaning that obviously so many of them are really even unconscious of. So
totally.
I totally, and we're very proactive in trying not to focus on, and I agree with you in that wording, in the way of the lose and the weight. We're always trying to talk to the girls about, let's try to and I find that I read this really interesting article by, I can't remember who it was, but it was a fitness inspo kind of model, or not model, but someone in this fitness scene, but it was actually phenomenal. And she says, everything surrounding women at the moment is all about being less than. It's all about losing weight. It's about, having a smaller tummy. It's about, it's always less than, eating less calories. Like she was talking about, let's add more weight to the barbell. Let's add more fruit and vegetables to our diet. Let's be more, of ourselves. Like, let's read more, let's learn more. And I was like, that makes so much sense. That actually to me sounds appealing. It's, and that's easy to follow. I can add things to my life that are going to make me better and make me happier, but it's the losing, it's hard to do. So yeah, I get what you're saying, and I agree. I hope that what I said makes sense, but
well, I mean, it's a really interesting conversation. I think it's one worth really pulling apart over time. And it's sort of one of the ones that I think doesn't happen so often. So we have to be patient with ourselves trying to understand it as we're talking as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's a kind of thing where we look at that and go, because what you're saying there, I mean, I can agree with that for sure. I don't think anyone should be less than themselves. I don't think anyone becomes better by playing smaller, so to speak. And I don't think they, are really contributing and teaching the next generation and our daughters and our young sons to make sure that they're becoming the best versions of themselves. And when I say that, I mean becoming the best contributors,
Yes.
And doing that sort of stuff. So I think it's really important to be able to do that. But it's we also live in an age that we have to be very careful that we think adding things to ourselves will make us happy. And it goes back onto what you're talking before about conditional happiness. And so more is good, if it's not necessarily, there's that quote of buying things to make you happy is like taping sandwiches to your body to satisfy hunger. So it's kind of like that's just got to go on the inside, right? So as long as I think more is that we're not confusing, because it's people take meanings in however they want to take the meaning. But if more means that we have to continue to keep adding and adding and adding and adding, and all of a sudden we're binging on stuff we don't need to. But I think there's a landscape there that each person needs to navigate themselves and be brave enough to do that. And I think that's where people like yourself play such an important role in supporting women to do that. I think, getting fit. I had a chat with, this will make more sense to my point. Liz Craven, she's a powerlifter out of Canberra. She's like a world record holder.
Wow.
I don't know what she pulls. She pulls like 187 or 190, maybe $2. And she's like below my shoulder, but she's fantastic. And she was saying that people will jump on her Instagram and they'll be like, oh my God, you're so inspiring and all this sort of stuff. And she's like, I'm just picking up weights. And I'm like, no, Liz, you're not just picking up weights. I'm like, you're showing them that if you just rock up, no matter how you feel, and do the work every day, someday you win, someday you lost, but you just erode away at the adversity of life, and that you're overcoming these small challenges. It's not what you think you're doing, it's what you're representing as.
Yeah.
And when we can encourage women to do that, then fantastic. And I think that's a matter of encouraging people to do that. And I'm not trying to wave the male flag at all. I'm just saying, when we can see people as people and make sure, and I'm for that conversation, because it's just like, well, should females lift weights? It's like, well, should they be useful? Like, be able to move things?
Yeah.
Like, should they? Of course they should. Like, if they want to.
Yeah. And if you don't want to, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Like,
whatever.
And I totally appreciate that. Like, it's not for everybody. If you want to go and do Pilates, if you want to run, if you want to swim, whatever it is, just find something you love and do that, and do it every day. Like, just find that thing and just do it every day. If you like to do a mix of yoga, weight training and running, that's fine too. Whatever it is, like, not everyone likes everything. And as long as you enjoy the process, that's the main thing. Like, we always talk to our girls about, if you're coming here and you're not enjoying it, you're not going to get results and you're going to be miserable. Like, there's just no point. Life is to be enjoyed. We've got these bodies. We've got them because we're meant to move. We're meant to challenge ourselves. We're meant to see what we're capable of. Because in that moment when you're lifting something, or you're pulling yourself up on a bar, or you're doing a cartwheel, or whatever it is, for a moment there, you're a bit weightless. You're in the moment, you're present, and it's almost like a form of meditation. And we need that. Like, it's just our human nature to be in that every now and then, because as you would know, we get so caught up by the daily grind and work and family and life. And, I think that that's really important, that everyone has something for themselves, and whatever it is, as long as you love it, it's the main thing. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the other thing about it, and you made a very good point with that, of going, like, when the love stops, like, don't force it. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, and it's the same thing as you used to play sport. And if you didn't play sport, maybe you wouldn't have never walked into the gym in the first time, hypothetically. There's things like that. And being able to do what we can to reduce the intimidation factor into a gym across the board is so crucial, because, and funny enough, when I traveled around the States, I was fortunate enough, I got across like something like 42 different gyms. And every single time before going to the gym, I was like, I wonder if I'm fit enough. I wonder if they'll like me. Should I talk? Should I not talk? Like, g'day, mate. Oh, my God. I don't see that. And so I sort of recognized, I remember being in an Uber going to one of the gyms, and I'm like, oh, this is exactly how everyone else feels
like.
Yeah,
my goodness. I 100% hear you. I recently went to visit a friend's gym, which is a movement gym. And it's a complete opposite of what I am all about. And I remember being really nervous. And he's a good friend of mine. Like, I knew he would totally look after me. But it was such a good lesson, because I thought, oh, wow, that's what people feel like here. Like, and it's really important. We have a 5-second rule. Like, anyone that walks through that front door, someone has to be up there shaking their hand, introducing themselves within 5 seconds. And if that hasn't happened, we haven't done our job, because for every second that goes, you're standing at the door waiting to catch someone's attention, or you're looking for someone to catch, you know what I mean? It feels like a lifetime, and it's scary. Like, it's that fear. And the sooner that we can get to people, and the sooner we can close that gap, the better. Like, but yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's really good to be put in that circumstance every now and then, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. We'll just go to a party you're not invited to. That's
100%.
Is Bill here? Who's Bill? I don't know.
100%. Exactly.
It's really interesting because in that circumstance, what happens is that if we're in an environment where we don't know anyone, it's effectively it's a threat. So we'll actually act as if there's a threat of some sort.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like you're talking about, that 5-second rule is that there becomes this, which is fantastic. There's this like slowly increasing level of threat.
Yeah.
Where the person will often be gauging for someone's eyes.
Yeah.
To have some sort of familiarity, because everything at the moment is unknown. They're literally stepping into the world of chaos.
Oh, 100%. And because, our number one need is to be accepted. We all want to be accepted no matter what. And and every single woman that steps into that gym, like their story before that day is also different. Some girls grow up and, they grow up in beautiful, loving families, and they don't really experience too many challenges. So they walk in with this big smile on their face. They're open. They don't really have that same level of fear. Whereas you've got some women, and I see it a lot in overweight women, they just, especially if they've got a bit of a chip on their shoulder because they may have been judged, or they may have had a bad experience, or they may have this preconceived idea in their head that, all these girls are cliquey or whatever it is, blah, blah, blah. I see the difference in them. They walk in and they're shut off, and they won't make you gaze. Like, their eyes are shifty and they're shaking or whatever. And so everyone walks in with a different kind of set of lens, I get. And so we try to just make sure that the minute that they do, they all see the same thing from that get-go. They all see that they're a part of something no matter what. The girls are friendly, and it's interesting. It's interesting. It's interesting watching people come in for the first time.
Yeah. And it's also like, I think one of the challenges for a lot of people is making sure they don't see an inquiry walk in the door. That's not what the person is. It's a person walking in the door.
Yeah.
That person is a human being that has concerns, that has goals, that has fears. They have, a story, so to speak. And it's all this sort of stuff. And if we see people as labels such as inquiries, etc., then what ends up happening is that we then lack the ability and lack the compassion and empathy to be able to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
And this is really crucial. And the further that I've gone in understanding like personality types and behaviors and, all of this sorts of stuff, is to realize how many people that I have come across that are, apparently I'm extroverted, apparently, but these introverted individuals that are, a little bit more global in their conversation and actually don't want to be having everyone meet them and all that sort of stuff as well. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And so you probably use your example, but at the start, like when you went to the gym and, everyone was doing the burpees with you, I've learned my lesson by doing that with some people. They're like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, I'll finish. Just let me finish by myself. I don't need you here. And I'm like, oh, I thought I was helping. It's like, no, David, that's what you would have wanted.
Yeah. Everyone's different in that respect. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's just learning and continually being open to, as a coach, and you would know this, to just be wrong. It's okay.
Oh, totally. And I think it's like something we're really, and we don't have it down pat yet, but something we're really trying to work on is how people want to be coached. Like I grew up, just doing surf lifesaving, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of a rowing team for a number of years where we were pushed like beyond belief, like to the point where we would train and my hands complete bled like blood, my arm, like to the point where we would just like, it's insane. And I remember back then, and so many things he would say to us, like he was obviously and this guy had achieved so much in his own rowing career, and he'd rowed at that top level with other athletes. So it was the first time I had really been exposed to that sort of mental toughness. Mm-hmm. And so, and everyone calls me the drill sergeant. Everyone says I'm the one that, I have a lot of women that say to me, you're like the nicest person I've ever met, but at the same time, the meanest. And I actually like that because I feel like there's a part of me that wants to be that soft, friendly face when you walk in. And I want to make your first, month or couple of months, really kind of easy and just not too intimidating, not too scary. But then you're going to get to a point where you're now an athlete, and you're going to get to a point where I'm going to want to start to push you. And a lot of women really struggle with that. And I actually think I struggle with it sometimes. I don't know how far to push people. Like I think I know some, but sometimes I get it wrong, and I sometimes push people a bit too far, or I don't push people enough. And I say to girls, my job here isn't to be your best friend. My job is to make you better than you were when you stepped through the doors a year ago. And if you're not better, then I haven't done my job. So that's interesting, I find, like actually just figuring out how people like to be coached. Do they like that really nice, soft, kind of encouraging approach, or do they like to be told, you know, keep moving, move your ass, do not, you know, do they like that more tough side? And yeah, it's interesting. And I think all of our coaches, we all have a bit of a different blend. And we're kind of all known for it now, which is good. But yeah, I feel like I'm that tough kind of, I think I would have done really well in the army, just put it that way.
Yeah. Or you would have disagreed with everyone and got kicked out. This is one of the two. Yeah, it is really fascinating. And it's sort of like, looking at that sort of perspective, and I'm actually really cautious of the person that wants to be pushed hard. If I have someone that comes in like, you know, I just want to be pushed real hard through workouts and stuff, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that, because I mean, like, it's not that I can't do that. It's like, that's a dependency, buddy. Like that's, I'm not your motivator. Like that's not my role in life.
And do you know what I find? I find that the people that say that are actually the ones that generally don't, like, I think the ones that talk are the ones that don't end up, like, I think the toughest people I know are the ones that just get in and just do it. You don't even have to tell, like, you say one thing to them and they just do it, and you can see it every time. They don't tell you. They don't have to ask for it. They just know innately that they're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to intrinsic motivation compared to external motivation, and so, or extrinsic. And so it's sort of like one of the things I've learned is that be very, very careful of the people who absolutely don't want your help at all. Like, that's fine. Just don't deal with them. But be very careful of the people that really want your help. Yeah. Because it's like, as I mentioned, we ran a little bit late to starting this, and I was just finishing off the last videos for the Connected Coaching course, but online. And I finished off with codependent patterns, which is looking at codependency, dependency, independent and interdependent patterns and behaviors and traits and everything from a client perspective and from a coach perspective. But also, like, people don't realize that they have codependencies on knee sleeves, on caffeine, on wine, on TV shows, all this sort of stuff. And so it's looking at that and going, within the codependency, there's often a drama cycle, which is victim, aggressor, rescuer. And if the people aren't conscious about this, and this is us included, we could be doing this with caffeine, or we could be doing it with people, we could be doing it with anything really. But if we're not careful, the victim actually needs there to be an aggressor and needs there to be a rescuer to uphold the identity of the victim. Now, the aggressor is the same, and so is the rescuer. And this is where it's just observing it, not judging it, just observing it with ourselves and see where we are. And that's where it's really careful. It's like anyone that puts their hand up and goes, I need some help, they're actually going, I'm a victim to an unknown problem potential. Right? Cool, no problems whatsoever. But it's the rescuer in that, I've got some inverted commas going on. It's the rescuer's role, which in this case could be like a PT or a coach, to help that person move to dependency. And if the coach doesn't, if the coach is just keep on yelling at people for the sake of yelling at people, they keep them within that drama cycle. And what ends up happening is that we remove the coach out of the equation, and then the person just has to go look for a new rescuer, and nothing actually changes. And the fitness industry is almost set up to have this. It feeds these insecurities so that this stuff continue to happen, because the fitness industry doesn't make, you know, I'm talking like, when I say the fitness industry, I mean the whole industry. The people that make the most money in the industry, we don't know their names. You know, they're in the marketing industry. Right. It's very different. And so it's sort of like, they don't want educated, healthy people. And you have places like you and the SOM and with what we do, and a lot of other community gyms that are trying to help play a role in changing the education of individuals and shifting from conditional love to self-love and unconditional love. And, you know, it sounds corny, but it's like, all right, well, go live your life with conditional love, and tell me how tell me you would tell your daughter to do that. Off you go. So that's totally where it's, you know, places like yourself, I'm sure, I'm saying that with all the confidence in the world. It's like, you're not an exercise facility. No. You're an educational facility. Yeah, 100%. The exercise is just a vehicle for that community and that connection and that, you know, getting women, you know, living their best life, like, you know, improving. And whether it's like, you know, there's so many times I've seen girls come in and, you know, quit their jobs and do something different because they've got that group of girls behind them saying, oh, you make beautiful jewelry. Like, why don't you do that full time and this and that? Or I see women leave partners that they shouldn't be with because they've finally got that, you know, that
group of women around them saying you're better than that, like you deserve better, like they've got that support. You know, with parenting, like I see it all the time, like, you know, they finally come in and they all have this little bit of connection and they start to want more and they start to look for more in their lives, in whatever that is, whether it's their health, their fitness, their career, their relationships, their hobbies, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I see it all the time. The fitness is just a vehicle for that to happen, really.
Yeah, perfect. Exactly right. I think that's great. So why, I'm saying it correctly, aren't I?
Lasom, yes.
Yeah, it's not a word I've thrown around often.
Yeah, no, it's very unique.
Yeah. So give me your meaning of it, and then why did you call the gym that?
So when, like my meaning of it is, the word is a Latin word, and it means to be agile, supple, and graceful. Mm-hmm. And when I first came about picking something, I just didn't want anything that was fitness oriented. Yep. I wanted something that was really unique, really different. I wanted it to be, you are known for being like, I wanted it to become a bit of a cult. Like you're a Lasom girl, like you're, sure, you know, you're going to Lasom today. It's not you're going to the gym. It's like, I wanted that word to, like, you know, your vacuum is your Hoover. Like, I've got to go get a Hoover. Like, sure, I'm hoovering the kitchen. Like, I wanted that. I don't think I realized that at the time, but I just wanted something really unique and really pretty. And so many people said to me when I first started that it was silly because it wasn't obvious and it needed to be. But you know what? It's always a conversation starter. Like, people are always asking about it, and I love getting to tell that story.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was the whole idea.
Okay. Fantastic. So, I mean, it probably feeds also into, and we've definitely would have covered it within our conversation, so not far, but I want to hear it from you directly. Like, why do you then do what you do? Like, when you really think about it, behind the helping people, like, yes, everyone wants to help people. Like, I get that, and I can sense how much you care about that. But really, why is it?
Honestly, it's because it feels like, you know, it's my life. I feel like for the first time in my life, I'm doing something that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up from a very poor family. My parents were deaf, and I always struggled at school. I struggled to make friends. And I think now it's really only the last year or so that I've really delved deep, that I really realized that how much my growing up in a deaf community has affected this. You know, I'm big on that whole acceptance and everyone being included. And, you know, I go on and on about it to the point where my coach is like, oh my God, kill me. But it's because I saw my parents being secluded from society so much because they were deaf, because it was hard to talk to deaf people if you weren't deaf yourself.
Yeah.
And I got picked on a lot because they were deaf. You know, I had a really traumatic childhood, and I think for me, I grew up, honestly, I was a very depressed girl for a long time, and if I'm really honest with myself, I never thought I'd see 30. Like, I never thought I just could not see my life past 30. I used to think about committing suicide constantly. I hated my life. And I honestly feel like if I died tomorrow, I would die happy knowing I've impacted a few people's lives. I've contributed a little bit to a small community. Like, I've had a little bit of influence within some, you know, maybe 500 people in Newcastle, maybe 1,000. And I mean, if that continues to grow and I can affect change in a bigger way, awesome. But I feel like for the first time I've done something I'm proud of, and I never thought I would ever say that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saving lives. I'm not going out there like saving starving children or anything, but I feel like we all have these injustices everyone has an injustice in something. Like, I remember the first time we planned our first charity ball a couple of years ago. We had this little committee, and we wanted to host a ball. We wanted to host a party. We wanted to do some good, but we weren't really sure for what cause. And one girl said she wanted to do it for the RSPCA, and one girl said she wanted to do it for women's shelter, and another girl said this cause and that cause. And I remember thinking to myself how interesting it was that everyone had these different causes they were passionate about. And I remember, and I've read the guy, I don't know if you've heard of the brand Thank You. I'm sure. And I've read his book, and he talks a lot about everyone feels, you know, unjustified by something. Yeah. And we all have a responsibility to ourselves and to other people to do something small for that. Like, we all have to pay the bills, we have to work, we have to live our lives. But I think if we can all do something small towards improving our community and the people and the planet in some way, then we're all going to have a better time here. Mm-hmm. So I hope that answers your question. But Yeah, I don't know. I know where you're going with this, because you're inadvertently probably pointing out that me helping other people makes me feel good. It's an indirect. I'm actually doing it for myself to make myself feel better. Which, yeah, it does.
I think you would do it as a win-win. I don't think it would be a. I mean, like, if you weren't feeling good about it, then it would be the wrong thing to do anyway. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's where it has to be. I mean, a win-win, people are like, that's a good idea. I'm like, no, a win-win-win is actually what it needs to be. And a win-win-win is a win for me, it's a win for you, it's a win for the greater good, so to speak.
Yeah.
It can be the community, it can be the health of the community, so to speak, on many different levels. So,
yeah.
So I think in that circumstance, it's actually just going, a lot of people don't actually get to answer that question deeper than I really enjoy helping people. Whereas, it's really important for us, I think, to be able to do that. And from there, to be honest, like, if you ask why I asked that question, it's because it's the throwaway comments where people say things for the first time that mean the most, right? And so what happens is that people go, oh, hang on a sec, well, I suppose, and that's them thinking. And then as they're thinking, they're often saying things that they've thought but never said.
Yeah. 100%. Well, that's the first time I've ever said that out loud.
Yeah.
And you know what I've noticed in life? Like, we all want to help people. Like, you talk to anyone. You talk to someone who has a building company. You talk to someone who works in childcare. You talk to someone who's a psychologist. Like, we all want to help others. Like, we do. Mm-hmm. Like, we really do. It's just a human thing that we all have. We all feel good when we're helping other people.
Mm. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I find it interesting. You're saying you're saving lives. You're not saving lives. It's like, well. I know you would argue that as well. I think you would argue that on a good way, because it's like, of course you're saving lives.
Oh, I know what you mean, and I'm not trying to pretend to be all modest, but I often hear about people out there, like, the guys from Thank You, who are out there, adding so much, like, clean water and food to all these countries, in the third world. And I hear about, women out there working with child traffic, like sex traffic organizations, and all this, like, really, important stuff. And there's a big part of me that's like, oh, I really want to start, thinking about that sort of stuff, and really trying to have more of an influence in the world and do some really awesome stuff. So I'm not trying to take away from that. I have my little bit of influence, but if anything, that's ignited a real desire in me to do more. And because I'm just in awe of these other people are out there that are just doing amazing things. And I think it's probably like you, like, once you start moving in these circles where you're talking to other people that are doing all these awesome things, and it's like a whole nother world. And all of a sudden you're exposed to this, and you're just like, wow, like, people are out there doing some really awesome stuff. Like, it's cool. And it just makes you want to do more of it too.
Yep, for sure. I think one of the things that, and I know I in the past, I've been caught up with that in some level, where it's like, cool, like, what's next? And I'm not saying that I think this is your train of thought, but it's definitely in this conversation. And in doing so, I neglected with what's next, I neglected what's now. And
now.
Yeah. And sorry?
Sorry, what we're doing right now is we are actually in that phase of wanting to develop and grow bigger. And, I think for 4 years, I've been winging it every step of the way. Like, I've honestly, the fact that I'm still in business today is, crazy, because I really have figured out that I really do not know what I'm doing. It's all by fluke. And what I think, the only thing that I put a little bit of, I can put a bit of down to the success that I've had is I am not afraid to know what I don't know. And I've brought the people around me that I need to help me grow. But I see that vision. I see that bigger vision. And I honestly see us having a gym in every single city in Australia. Mm-hmm. I want to impact, I think I've impacted maybe 1,000 lives here in Newcastle. I want to impact tens of thousands of lives. I want to, I really want to try and create a place where anyone in any city in Australia could go and be a part of a community, like, straight away, like, have a friendship circle, have a base, like, have other women to talk to, know how to get fit and strong, understand that they need to love their bodies and nurture them, and not have this awful, like, pointless, sense of self-loathing that just doesn't get them anywhere. I really want to help more and more women. And also too, on another note, I want to, like, I look at what this has done for me working in this industry, and how much it's given me this sense of, joy and passion and pride. And I see what it's done for Ash. She's my first full-time employee. I envisage us employing an army of those women. Like, I want to see, managers and assistant managers and coaches everywhere, like, working for this brand and influencing other women and creating these communities everywhere. Like, I just want to see, for the first time, I'm really serious about making that happen. And I have no idea how I'm going to do it. I don't know, but for the first time, I'm actually seeing it, and I'm actually starting to put some traction in place to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So watch your space.
Well, that's the thing though as well. It's also it's a marathon, right? And it's that idea of I suppose for me, starting back, I mean, I opened my gym 7 years ago, and I had a lot of challenges throughout the last 7 years. From like, I think it comes from this idea of going, well, I wanted to become a better business person, and so my business started doing really, really well. But then I got the lessons that I needed to learn in order to become a better business person. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Now it makes sense. It's very painful going through it, but
yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, that costs. It's like, so you didn't go to uni. It's like, yeah, but fuck me, I paid some hex. Like, it's just, it's just how it works. And it's just a matter of going, there's some people that are more measured, and there's some people that are more happy to wing it. And it's just like, you're gonna pay regardless somehow. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't have the idea of thinking macro. It's just making sure that we also have to act micro. And when looking at, for example, like the now, it's really looking at and going back to this conversation of changing lives. And what I have to remind myself is that, if I'm on the floor, if I'm here at the gym, my macro gym isn't here. I got to be micro, feet on the ground, hands getting dirty with the people, because I know that when these people leave, if I'm not with them, they can tell. That's one. But two, they go the conversations they have at home impact their children, right?
Yeah.
Impact the next generation. And if I'm too busy, and I've learned this, too busy thinking about big picture and making a big impact, I learned this for me. I will never make it, because I'm so caught up in the potentiality of the future that never fucking comes.
Yeah.
And lose what's happening right here now in front of me, and therefore I lose my impact on people.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Wow, that's really cool.
It's sort of like, it took a long time. Like, I'll take the morning session then, shall I?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's still really important to stay connected. Like, I've learned that too. My business has suffered when I started to take a step away from it and wasn't so involved. And my mission is, no matter what happens next, to never lose that sense of connection with the members, connection with the trainers, and being around at the gym, showing your face and being there and living it too. Like, even for me, my health and my fitness has gone up and down over the years. Like, it's like anything. You love it for a certain amount of time, and then you lose motivation. Really, other things are going on that you're prioritizing. So, yeah, I'm still learning that too. And I'm in a phase now where I'm really coming back, and I'm being connected. I'm really in it more. And it's, the gym picks up as soon as you do. Like, it's funny, but everyone's more motivated. Everyone's more inspired. The gym starts to, bring in better numbers, and everything just feels better. And it's all really just because I'm paying attention now. Like, that's all it is. It's interesting. Yeah,
absolutely. What I learned, which was, once again, part of the, right, that makes sense. It was that part of that sort of package. It wasn't like here's what we're learning today. It was like, that's what I learned there.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was understanding that my team members that joined my team, when we got to a point I could pull back a little bit and start to focus on other things, they didn't join the team to lead. They joined the team to be leaders, but to also be led. And I actually stepped back away. And in doing that, I stopped leading. I stopped actually. And leading is not just goal setting and having a big vision. I had to learn this the hard way once again. Leading is being on the floor and doing the work, and, being there late and mopping the floors and acting like I actually give a shit, not just saying that I do. And that was one of the things that, it's not like you get trapped to a certain floor space for the rest of your life. It's not that at all. It's just making sure that, different people need to see it, different people need to hear it. You look at the book, The 5 Love Languages, the perfect example of how different people, appreciate love, however you want to take that word. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah. Super interesting stuff, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is.
So what's on for the rest of this year then?
So we're literally just today confirmed a date where our next location will be in Maitland, which is about 30 minutes away from the heart of Newcastle. So we're kind of, our idea is to open up one that's not too far away first, so we can keep an eye on it, keep our existing trainers kind of traveling up there to run it. So we're launching an open day for that soon. So that will probably, be the big focus for the rest of the year. And then we've got some cool seminars we're going to where I'm trying really hard to make sure that we are, really trying to book in more regular learning and development just for ourselves, like for Ash and I and the other coaches too, and trying to really see what they need and make sure that we're really assisting them in the best way possible. Like if they need, improvement in, or if they're interested in, some strength and conditioning courses or gymnastics courses, or they want to go to a seminar and learn about, social media, whatever it is, we're actually offering them that so that they're enjoying their role with us and they're learning and they're improving, and therefore we're all trying to get better every day. So, I think we're just trying to focus on that. The next one and also make sure that our LaSomme HQ maintains, keeps running the way it is and it should be, and we don't lose sight of that. And developing our people so that we can all start to take that next step where we can send girls all around Australia to run these gyms and spread the message.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So I have a question for you from my lovely people in the Mood Prep Online group. Steph asks, in a facility designed for women, how do you manage to keep a supportive culture and prevent/reduce the chance of judgmental behaviour? And then in brackets, women can be really critical of each other, especially when they are themselves insecure.
100%. Obviously, I can totally understand and appreciate that comment when it's the number one thing we hear all the time. So many women are terrified of coming because they're sure that exists. I'll tell you one thing. I have absolutely zero tolerance for it. And I make that well known every single time I talk to anybody, anytime I'm in the gym. My coaches know it. And so I suppose in the time that we've been open, I'm sure there has been instances where it's happened. There was one particular instance where I heard about a particular, event happening where there was a little bit of not judgment so much, but, people thinking that they were better than other people and not wanting to train with them. And I squashed it straight away. And I always try to employ women. Whenever I'm talking to my coaches, I'm always making sure that they understand they are leading by example. So, and they're inspiring women every day. And it's their responsibility to stay connected with them, to encourage them, and that we're all on the same playing field. And so that culture, going around and making sure people get to know each other constantly. So, we're constantly playing games at the beginning of workouts, so that people getting to know each other, because it's not an instinctive thing that people will go up and introduce themselves. So we force that. We really create space for that every day. And at the end of workouts, so we always make a point of starting and finishing together. So at the end, it's always go around and high five every single person in the room. Like, we physically say it. We physically tell people to do it because it's the only way that people will do it. And then all of a sudden it does start to happen organically, but I guarantee you stop telling people to do it, a month later, people will stop doing it. So it's just something that we're very, very conscious of, we're very aware of, and it's our number one thing that we're passionate about. So we don't accept anything less. We just don't. And I think our social media and the way that we celebrate other women and that we're sharing the stories and we're putting ourselves out there, it's completely judgment-free. We post photos of women that have, 40 kilos. We post photos of women that are 140 kilos. We post photos of women that are 17 and 60. We're constantly trying to show that, we want to create an environment where anybody could step through that door no matter what, and anyone will be made to feel a part of it. Yeah,
You go.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's just something that, I suppose I don't know how we do it, but I can guarantee you we do it. And my coaches, and I think it's really important. I see a lot of gyms where their coaches and their leaders do not train with their members, and I think that is the worst thing possible. Number one, I think it sets the idea that they are too good and that they're separate from that group. But number two, I see in a class, when coaches are training with a group, how much that class lifts. Everybody just loves it. These members put our coaches on a pedestal and they just look up to them and they idolize them. And when they're standing next to you training with you and they're encouraging you, it just creates this energy you cannot put your finger on. And by having our coaches so involved in our community and the girls and their training, you know, it's like one of me, but times 8 all the time. And they live and breathe it as much as I do. And it's just such, we talk about it in staff meetings. We talk about it. It's just everywhere. We're always, it just does not happen. I just would not tolerate it. Like, people don't even dare to gossip at our gym. Like, girls don't even dare go there because it's just not cool. Like, you know that you're just going to get shut down. People aren't going to want to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's culture. That's good. Fantastic. So I think it might have even been before we actually pressed record earlier, and you talked about how you had a particular kind of demographic that was consistent, and then you had somebody come through with their personal challenges, which was at the other end of the spectrum almost. And then it started to shift things. Could you go into a bit more depth around that? It was
Totally.
about 10 minutes before I probably just started. I have to. Yeah. I need a coffee. What can I say?
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. So like I was saying, I think that typically, I think, you know, when we first started out, we would attract a lot of, you know, average athletic, sporty girls. Like, often you would have girls coming in that had never trained before, never exercised, really just walking, and that's about it. And then we really, you know, we transformed quite a few, like, you know, people in the way of a, you know, huge amount of body fat loss. So we then started, you know, really attracting overweight, like a lot of women that wanted to lose a large amount of weight. So, you know, and I would say that we had a really good cross section of just any type of shape. But we did have this one member who, weirdly, I was at a cafe one day and I'd park. I'm really bad for parking in places that I shouldn't park, and I've got sign writing all over my car, so it's the dumbest thing to do. And I remember walking out to my car and seeing a note. I pulled out, drove down the street, and I saw this little note on my windshield, and I thought to myself, I was actually immediately pissed off, and I was like, I didn't even park anywhere wrong that time. I was actually doing the right thing. And I thought, no, I'm not reading it. I immediately assumed it was going to be something negative, and I was like, I'm not reading it. I'm just going to drive home. It's not going to ruin my day. And I thought curiosity got the better of me, so I pulled over, opened up this note, and it was the nicest, most genuine note. It was a note from a girl who said, Nerida, I followed your journey for years, and I just want you to know I suffer horrendously from anorexia, and I love your message that you send to women, that you know, try to accept women of any age, shape or size. You know, I really want to come down to Lausanne and check it out one day. Like, it was just this beautiful note saying, thank you for doing what you're doing. You've inspired me. And I was bawling my eyes out, obviously. So, and it had no name, no contact details, nothing. So I put it out there. I posted the note straight away, and I said, who is this girl? You know, we need to find you. I want to offer you a free 3-month membership at Lausanne. And she joined Lausanne, and meeting her was amazing. And she's been a huge part of our community ever since. And she shows us her photos. She went from weighing 40 kilos to now she weighs 55. And she's still a tiny girl. Like, if you looked at her in the street, you would still say she's like, there's nothing of her. She's still really petite, really beautiful, and she just looks like a normal girl. But she comes and trains, she lifts weights, she's gotten strong, and this is 12 months later. So she has shared a lot of her journey and a lot of her and how our community has changed her idea of what it is to be fit and healthy. And she knows she needs to eat more. She knows she needs to lift weights. She knows she needs to relax a little bit on weekends, and she can have a glass of wine, and she can go out for pizza with the girls, and it's okay, like, to have a bit more balance. And so we've shared a lot of her story. So we've actually seen a lot of women coming in now that probably are more on the underweight side, and in a way it frightens me, because I look at these girls lifting all this weight thinking, you know, you need to put on some weight, otherwise you look like you're going to snap. But what I do know is that it's a process, and they're trying really hard to change this belief that they have and change their relationship with food, and slowly, gently, like this. Ash has been with our gym for 12 months, and I talk to her about it all the time. We've kind of earmarked her as a bit of a mentor to some of these other girls, and she's very aware of these girls, and we talk about it a lot. And I always want them to know that I'm here if they need to talk to me. But at the same time, I don't really feel qualified to talk, because obviously it's a whole nother world that I don't really know a lot about. But what I do know is I feel like it's the same, it's not so much about the weight. It's about what that you know, belief that you attach to it, you know, whether you're eating too much or not enough. It's, you know, we want to get you all to a point where you can just be okay with who you are, and you can eat a balanced diet. You can eat enough calories to support your daily life, but not too many. And you can move and exercise enough to maintain your health and your mobility and get fit and strong and just be happy and healthy. And so, yeah, it's really interesting to see these girls come along. We've got quite a few of them with us at the moment. And I'm really excited to kind of head down that path. And we're doing a lot with teen girls at the moment too. So we're running a Little Some Women program where girls between the ages of 10 and 15 are coming in. We're training them, and it's mind-blowing to see how many of them go to school and don't eat all day. And they're developing these bad habits from such a young age, and they're on social media constantly. Like, it's a whole nother world to when I went to school 20 years ago. So that's my next thing. I'm really trying to focus on that as well. And we're trying to match some of these girls up with some of the women in our gym to mentor them. And I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, God, imagine what my life would have been like if 20 years ago I had a woman that was 10 years or 15 years older than me, just kind of keeping an eye out on me and just talking to me and, how you doing? What's going on? Like, in regards to boys, in regards to career, and in regards to friendship life. Like, when you're at that age, school is everything, and your friendship circle, and it's, you know what I mean? Like, if you have a falling out with someone, I remember not going to school for 3 weeks because I was so badly picked on. I wagged school every day for 3 whole weeks. So, yeah, like, I'm just trying to, find a way to get these girls and, just, you know what? I'm all about just bringing as many people together as possible. Once you bring them together, you create that space. It happens organically. They do it. But I think that's all I'm ever all about. I'm always just trying to bring people together, mix them up, and just see what happens. Just sit back and let the magic unfold. I don't know. It's weird. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Look, thank you very, very much for your time today.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed I didn't even open my kombucha, but so otherwise, if people were more interested to find out more, where can they go to find out more?
We have a website, lasom.net.au. We have a social media page, Miss Lasom, on Instagram and Facebook. You can reach out to us on any one of those platforms. You can email us as well. But all of our info is really informative. It's got heaps of FAQs and all sorts of stuff, heaps of our stories, our coaches, everything on there. So, and it's pretty well updated. We tend to get on there quite a bit.
Fantastic. And for those of people like probably myself a little while ago who didn't know how to spell Lasom, how would you spell it?
Lissome.
Beautiful. Someone's listening to be like, I can't believe he didn't know Lasom.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking in my head right now.
Yeah. I knew how to spell it. I'm just saying. I've been to the website. Oh, don't do this to me. So, thank you very much for your time today. As always, if you found this podcast beneficial and you know someone else that you think would also find it beneficial, then please share it along. Otherwise, guys, that's it. Until next time. Thank you. My pleasure. I look forward to catching up with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.